Chapter 12. The Wolf Cub has almost arrived at the capital. Zhu Cheng would give Gao Min a month to set the stage. Half a month later, he made some stewed chicken soup using 100-year-old ginseng and had it sent to the Yangxin Temple. Li Jintian was very suspicious lately. He had a servant taste anything he ate. But the Han pill was a chronic poison. The attack was slow, and the signs of injection into the blood would disappear in half a minute. Even a silver needle wouldn't detect it, let alone a poison tester. Li Jintian has been eating the poison for a month. The toxicity has dissipated, and even the most experienced doctor in Dayang country wouldn't be able to diagnose any abnormalities. One day, after eating the lunch sent by Gao Min, he went to the imperial study to take care of governmental affairs. Just as he picked up the brush, he suddenly felt a stir in his chest and coughed up black blood. "Your Majesty, what's wrong?" The head eunuch felt his soul fly away in fright. He trembled. "This blood's color is extremely abnormal. Is it poisoning? Hurry, we need the imperial doctor." "Don't shout. Make Xu Yuan secretly come over. No one can see him." Li Jintian was the emperor. He understood why this matter couldn't spread to outsiders. He couldn't let this out of the room before the truth was ascertained. The head eunuch did not have time to close his mouth before the hidden spy followed the command. Xu Yuan posed as a servant to enter the study. He knelt down to read the emperor's pulse, then shook his head after a moment. He couldn't find out anything. He'd only taken 2 minutes to reach the study, yet the signs of poisoning had already vanished. "Check this chicken soup." Li Jintian pointed to the soup bowl on the table. Today, the only exception to his diet was the chicken soup sent from Xishan Palace. He didn't want to doubt Qi Xiujie, but he couldn't read people's hearts. Xu Yuan tested the soup and concluded that the chicken soup only had 100-year-old ginseng. It was a tonic that could only help the body. "There are more dishes here. Continue testing." Li Jintian slumped down into his chair. Except for the chicken soup from Xishan Palace, the other foods were all personally overseen by Gao Min. If it was not Qi Xiujie, it could only be Gao Min. That conclusion made his chest burn. It hurt 1,000 times more, and was more difficult to swallow than even the most dangerous poison. If the Han pill do not enter the human body, its toxicity can last in the water or food it's in for a long time. Gao Min had urged the attendant to dump and destroy the dishes as soon as the emperor ate, but today, for some reason, the head eunuch had quietly entered the imperial kitchen and gathered the leftovers neatly into a food box. After checking the emperor's favorite steamed bath, the doctor was surprised a moment. Then he immediately threw away the chopstick in his hand. After hearing the crisp sound of chopstick falling to the ground, Li Jintian trembled. He eventually gritted his teeth and asked, "How is it?" "Yes, this is the dish. It seems to be the Han pills. Because the emperor coincidentally ate the 100-year-old ginseng today, it fought with the toxicity and caused you to cough up blood. If not for this ginseng, I'm afraid that you wouldn't find out about poisoning." The subtext was to expect the possibility of death. To clear any doubt, the doctor punctured the emperor's fingertips, took a drop of blood and dropped it into a special fluid agent for inspection. After a moment, he knelt on the ground and now out, afraid to say it out loud. Well, it finally came to this step. Is this the so-called fate? So why did God let me be reborn? Perhaps he wanted me to compensate someone, and that person was not Gao Min. Li Jintian gave a wry smile, then calmly opened. "Can I be saved?" The doctor was silent. Li Jintian understood and changed the questions. "How many days do I have to live?" The silence was deep. Then the doctor finally whispered, "I predict perhaps in 4 or 5 days, His Majesty's body will be completely exhausted. 4 or 5 days? So fast? Li Jinqian sighed, but his mood was unexpectedly calm. He sent the doctor away and secretly called in the confidant he'd cultivated for 3 years. 5 days later, the emperor suddenly had an accident. He was bedridden and the situation looked very critical. Gao Min and Gao Lang panicked after hearing the news. The poison effect was about 10 days earlier than their prediction. They still were missing a lot of preparations. They thought that Li Jinqian could drag on for a few days, but he seemed to be welcoming his death. He actually refused to take medicine. Instead, he called for the courtier representatives, the princes and their mothers, together at the Yangjin temple. He seemed to want to make his final arrangements. Gao Min kneeled together with fifth prince at the foot of the bed. Xi Shujie kneeled by the bedside, followed by the courtier representatives. The princes, concubines, and servants all kneeled 3 meters away. I have no time. I want to explain my last wishes in front of all these people. Fu Shun, transcribe for me. Fu Shun was the head eunuch. He hurriedly got a pen and paper and listened. I and Gao Min have gotten along for a long time. I deeply love him. After that death, I can't bear to separate. After Gao Min buries me, I want to be born in different quilts, buried in the same hole. I beg your benevolence. Then he took a deep breath and couldn't look to see the sudden pale Gao Min. I'm also willing to sacrifice. Zhou Yunsheng knocked his head on the ground and quietly opened, but his swollen red eyes and trembling body couldn't hide his grief. You will live a good life. Li Jinqian gave a wry smile and waved. Even at this point in time, this person was still so silly. He never got to enjoy a life of honor, so he would let him live a good life in this world. This was the only compensation he could give. I'm willing to sacrifice. Zhou Yunsheng now thought again. But Li Jinqian ignored him. He continued, My seventh brother, Prince Li, never married a concubine, so he has no children. My heart hurts for him, so I will pass fifth prince to my younger brother. Give him filial piety, support him till the end. Gao Min suddenly looked up towards the dragon bed. His pale face was completely discolored. If fifth prince hadn't pressed down his shoulder, he would have rushed over and desperately questioned Li Jinqian. He's passing our son to Prince Li? Was all the love he showed to Li Juyan false? Li Jinqian almost stopped breathing. Zhou Yunsheng, like this was an addiction, once again gnawed hard and expressed his willingness to sacrifice. You shut up. Li Jinqian overturned the medicine bowl by the bedside and ferociously shouted. He saw the other man finally quieten down. The man was kneeling in worship, his face buried between his palms. He did not look up, he just silently cried. This made Li Jinqian think of the cold palace in the last life. This man had also weakly kneeled in front of his memorial table, and even if he was in pain, he just buried his head in his arms and cried in despair and grief. Li Jinqian was even more determined to let him live a long life. Give me a decree. I'll write the last wish myself. He waved to Fu Shun. Fu Shun quickly handed a blank decree to the emperor. Except for Gao Min, father and son, everyone stared intently at him. He casually gave these two a burial and an adoption, as if all the love he'd shown them before was an illusion. Just what is the emperor thinking? This is too unpredictable. Li Jinqian talked as he wrote. Fate can't be refused. Shrines can't be neglected. Ministers can't have no master. Machines can't lack unity. I know that my deadline has arrived, and after observing all the prince's virtues, only sixth prince, Shudong, is fit to lead Dayang country. His dignity, natural talent, and filial piety is the best fit for Dayang country. To unify the country, to secure the four seas, I'll announce his abilities to the heavens and earth, the ancestral shrine and the country. The heir will be sixth prince. Sure enough, it's sixth prince. Some people were shocked, some were calm. But as for the princes, although they weren't happy, it absolutely wasn't bad news. Regardless of which prince had ascended the throne, they would be better than fifth prince being on the throne. Because of this father and son, the number of concubines who were neglected was simply countless, and all the slightly talented princes were miserably suppressed by Gao family. They were so ruthless when not at the top. If the boarded the When not at the top, if they boarded the greatest height in Dayang country, no one would have a way out. In contrast, sixth prince was forthright, witty, modest, and had a very harmonious relationship with his brothers. Qi Shujia was also a humble person who did not lust for fame or fortune. Their lives would be much better off under these people than under Gao family. The court representatives had been persuaded by the emperor 5 days ago, so they naturally obeyed orders. As the courtiers, princes, concubines, and servants as witnesses, Li Jintian lifted a trembling hand to cover the seal and seal the imperial edict. Then he closed his eyelids. Fu Shun called out his name in grief, while everyone was kneeling, walked a few steps forward to see the situation. Only Gao Min, father and son, and Zhou Yunsheng kept kneeling in their original places. The former glanced sideways, eyes flashing with hidden intention, while the latter buried his head in silence, his thoughts unknown. Li Jintian barely struggled back from his last breath and grabbed the person nearest to him, Fu Shun's hand. He repeatedly stressed, "Make Gao Min follow me immediately after death. I won't leave him for a moment." Since he couldn't get Gao Min's heart, he would take the whole person with him. They'll go to the death together. He would never let Prince Li have him. Zhou Yansheng's ears twitched. He sighed in his heart. Is this what it means to love someone to death? Li Jintian is really too difficult. Fu Shun was in tears. He could only nod and whisper that he heard him. Li Jintian closed his eyes in peace of mind. The doctor stretched his hand under his nose and slowly said, "The emperor is dead." As anguished wails immediately sounded in the temple, a eunuch tried to knock the death candle, but a Tianchen palace guard stopped him. The sound of steel swords slipping out of scabbards echoed in the sudden cold silence. Gao Min slowly stood up. His face didn't show the slightest grief, only relief, fatigue and relief. He waved his sleeves and the guards surrounded everyone. He carried the sword and slowly walked to the front of Zhou Yunsheng. Then he raised his hand to chop. Zhou Yunsheng suddenly laughed. It sounded rather evil. He reached out his left hand and pinched off Gao Min's blade. Then he reached for Gao Min with his right hand and brought him close, tightly buckling the other's fragile neck. Dayang's great commander Gao Min was unexpectedly not his opponent. Except for the head eunuch Fu Shun, everyone was stunned. Revenge, revenge, revenge. Li Jintian wanted revenge after his rebirth. Gao Min wanted revenge after his rebirth. So Qi Shujie would also naturally want revenge. Revenge is such a vicious cycle, wouldn't you agree? He smiled and whispered against Gao Min's ears. Gao Min's soul almost flew away in horror. He asked, "You were reborn again?" "Who knows?" Zhou Yunsheng harshly answered. His eyes showed contempt. "In the last life, Li Jintian would have always died because he was incompetent. You would have always died because of loyalty. What did that have to do with the hundreds of people in Qi family? Qi family's leader just made a choice to adapt to the change in history. When you were reborn, that was your chance to examine the faults in your own actions. Why did you immediately vent your anger on everyone else? You killed hundreds of innocent people, Or at least they were innocent when you killed them. Li Xintian was an incapable ruler. Even when given a second chance, he was still incapable. If it were me, there are no courtiers I wouldn't be able to control. Gao Min was frightened speechless. The rest of the princes, courtiers, concubines, and servants had quickly hid behind Qi Shujia, hoping he could offer some protection. If Qi Shujia could laugh so lightly and freely in this situation, he should have come prepared. Zhou Yingcheng never did anything that was uncertain. He raised his chin to Li Juyan, who was standing opposite. I'll give you two choices. One, let us go and we give you Gao Min. Second, we kill Gao Min. How do you choose? Gao Lang had said that he would take him as a hostage to threaten the wolf cub. That made him very unhappy. He always preferred to give back exactly what he gets.